Hey, I thought I would do a video. So I did my controller, right, and it's based on touch, and which is cool. I mean, you can do all sorts of stuff with it. It's really easy to set up and work and so forth. But it doesn't deal with mouse events or anything, right? So there's, it has its issues as well. So I thought I wasn't going to bother making another controller based on the mouse inputs, but I was going to do a little tutorial on how you would set that up. Don't mind the wall of me blowing things up. That's I was playing with Rayfire and PlayMaker, trying to get those things working together and everything all good and so forth. Well, anyways, so if you want to do a mobile joystick, you need a couple things. So to use mouse, I am going to make a very large panel like this, and I am going to take it down to that, and then I'm going to build. Now if you have two sides, you're not going to want to stretch it. You're going to want to go how am I going to want to do that? I'm going to want to go this way. Well, we'll figure that out in a second. So we have said area, and the reason why you want a panel is, and it's the same reason why I didn't make a joystick with the mouse like my original one was, but my second one isn't. It's based on actual touch events, which is cool and all. It does its own thing. Trying to see, what do I have in here that I could use? These don't need to be raycasts. And just something kind of round. That works. Not the greatest looking joystick, but it'll work. It will work. And I am going to anchor this down here. So to do it with mouse, now you could put the logic on these things themselves, but then if you deactivate it and like, you can't get mouse info if it's deactivated. Like it won't read, which is why I have this panel, so I can put all the logic into this panel. I'll give it a little bit of this so we can see it a little better for now, and then we'll fade it out after. So if we have a FSM and you do a simple UI events on begin drag, and what else do we want? On drag, and probably an end drag. So there's your three kind of steps of what happens on a UI element. So if I push things, where's our, there it is, right? So if I click and start dragging, it does the begin, and then it constantly fires drag every frame if you're dragging, and then when you end, it does the end. Okay, so there's a reason why you want all three. Now, while you're dragging, you would want more or less to get mouse position I'll just get the mouse X and mouse Y. We don't need it in every frame or normalized because this event fires every frame. And then we need to build a vector. So we're going to set position of we'll use a variable. We'll call this knob. So there's knob. And we're going to set it to X and Y and space world. And we'll go over to our knob. And now we have a knob. Just like that. So now we have, that's backwards. And that would be because I decided to, man, I do that a lot, right? So now we have this. Now I can drag it all over the place, right? And we don't want that, right? So we want like a certain distance that we can go, and then we want it to end. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to, I guess, more or less get like we don't actually want to build a vector and just set this knob to the vector. We do want to build a vector, however. Set vector x, y, z. And okay, I'm just going to get rid of that for now. And this is going to be current mouse position. And we'll use X, Y, and Z can be 0. And then we also need to get position. And move this down here. You gotta remember, you want to put everything in order of things, right? And we're going to get position of the knob. And that's going to be knob position. Then we need a vector 3 operator. Move that to the bottom. And we need to take the current mouse position and the current knob and subtract them. And that's going to give us a direction. And then we want to normalize. The direction. And then we want to vector 3 multiply direction by a distance. So we'll use a variable, which we don't have, which max distance, we'll put that over here so we can adjust it nice and easily. So we've do that. Now we need a vector 3 operator. Well, actually no, I guess we don't need an operator for this one. We can now do a vector 3 add. Move that to the right to the bottom. It's going to be after everything. So we're going to take the knob position, we're going to add direction, which is a multiplied version of it, and now we will set position. And this isn't everything yet. This is actually only part of the code. So we need to go to the knob. Right now, that will always put it at max, obviously. Oh, and of course we gotta change those, because that's just gonna screw things up. Okay, so what's happening there? You know what I think I'll do? I think I will do a vector operator. Above the set position. And we'll do knob, direction, add to a final. Set position to the final. All right, let's get these every frame then, if that's how they want to be. So what's happening? So we're getting the position. Oh, you know what? Because we get position of the knob. And we don't. We need that actually over here. Knob position. Because he's technically a start position, which, I mean, if you have it this as dynamic, you put it under the UI drag. Okay, so we're getting that. All right, there we go. Obviously, that distance isn't enough, so let's just come down here. All right, let's take this up to like 200. All right, so that might be a little too far. 175. Still a little far. So probably 150. Right, but there's the max. Now it's not doing anything in the middle, right? Which we don't want that. We want the max. If we go beyond the max, but we don't want that same logic if we are not under the max. So I'm going to copy this and paste it. Get rid of that and get rid of that. So here we have the mouse and we have all of this where, okay, so this one will be at max. This one will be non-max. So what's the difference with these two? We can now literally just get rid of all this and set position to that, right? because we don't care if it's just following it perfectly if we're inside the circle. Now, we do need, however, a vector 3 operator in both of these that runs a current mouse position and to the knob position, which is, I guess, technically our center position. Would probably be a better term for it. And we need to do distance. Alright, and that needs to be every frame. And then we need to do a float compare. And if distance is greater than max distance, we're going to clamp it. So that needs to be at the very, very, very bottom. Alright, if we clamp it, we go over here. And over here, we also need this, but obviously not the same logic, right? We want, if distance is less, then we want to unclamp. So let's make this guy our starting. Right, so if we click, right, it follows anywhere we want to go, and if we try to leave, it's not getting our proper distance. So let's see. Our distance is not the mouse position. Current mouse position isn't changing. Why is that not changing? Those are changing. Oh, well, yeah. That's where I screwed up. Of course, we need the set vector X, Y, Z, because I took it out. We need it, but at least above that one last vector. So current mouse position is X, Y, every frame. All right, so we're here, and it's stopped. Now it's following in there just perfect, right? So the other thing we want to do, set position of the knob to knob position. Doesn't have to be every frame, world, right? So that means now that when we let go, it's going to go backwards or go back to the middle. Oh yeah, so we have that part of the joystick working. I'm going to make, this one's going to be, say, joy control. Now let's do another FSM called joy, I don't know, logic. And all it's going to do is it's going to get we can probably just do it with just off the knob. So in the start, we need to get position. Actually, no, we probably should, because if you want to make it dynamic, it's going to need them both. Okay, so I'm going to call this one background, and this one knob. All right, there we go. So get position of image 1, change them in here as well. So at least they match. Because that could be confusing. So we're going to get position. We're going to call this a starting. Alright. Now he can finish. We don't need anything else out of him. So what we need now is to get position again of the knob, but we're going to make this one local or self. That's our pre-vector. Now we will need to normalize that, and that also needs to be every frame. So let's just fix that up first. Right, so now if we normalize our pre-vector every frame, hit play, and we now have, right now we have a vector of 0, 0, 0, there's 1, our vector is working, and it's, everything here is working, so perfect. Right, so that's kind of how that system can work so far. Now that's mapped to a XY plane so far. So what happens if we want to make this dynamic? Well, we would need to activate activate solo light. That's not going to do much for us. We need those two both activated, and we need to also get those same things, not every frame, and we also need we need set positions. We need 2 of those, but not every frame. So, well, the knob, and then the other one would be the background. And we also need to, and then at the end, get position, because that's going to be our starting point. Then let's take these 2, copy those, and on drag end, paste, and deactivate them. Now let's start with these 2 deactivated. Now this is the whole point of this panel, because now with these unactivated, they can't get the mouse events. We're now like the logic's not running on these, it's running on the panel. So as you see, we have a minor issue, right? The knob's fine, and the background's not. And I think that's because I did this. So I'm just gonna do that. And no, that's okay. Begin drag. We get the mouse. We set position of the knob of him. Also, not every frame. Background. Now let's see what he's doing. Oh, there, it's working. Was that the only thing I needed? I have another issue though, apparently. Alright, so that one has got some sort of weird thing happening. But the first part of it's starting to work. Okay, so we get the knob. You know, we should almost change that as the background. He's really the starting point, as long as his anchor point's in the middle. There we go. That's a little better. Right. So, and now this is, which is why you need this, right? Because if you try to click over here, it can't get that information. But I mean, we can now, you know, you can't see it, right? It's not there, I swear. So there's that. And if I take that and duplicate and just move him over, now we have two of them. We have one here and one over here. And they are different. I guess I should try to prove that. Let's change this guy's knob. Totally different color. Can even change the background. Just a big circle. I used the knob for the background. Right, so there's him and there's him. Right, because these guys, each panel has their own logic. Right, so with this setup, if you were to use touch now, touch would work, like a thumb on each side would work, but you can't have numerous inputs happening at the same time, more or less, on each panel. So this panel could work, and this panel could work, and you could add buttons here and put it, say, above the panel, and then that would work. But they have to be separate. Like these are different. Now, granted, if you take this down, you could never tell that they were separate. You would just think like, oh, you just the way it's built. But that's kind of how that works. So that's how you do it using the mouse data, mouse events. Is just like that, and it's really not that much logic. It's not a great deal. That's kind of why I didn't do the actions, is because not that the logic's hard, but because there's a few extra steps when it comes to the requirement of making things dynamic and doing stuff, and I didn't want to have an action where I'd have to make a video on how you have to set everything up and then have the action work a certain way. I just figured out, you know what, I'm gonna go off a touch control, and the touch control, literally you just drop it and give it an image and off you go, and it works just fine. But it doesn't interact with the mouse control, where this one will. This one will interact with everything. So we'll see you guys in the next video.